Well, hello, everyone. I'm going to do a quick intro and we'll get started. I'm Katie Sullivan. I'm the Assistant Director of the Career Center, and I oversee the Arts, Communications, and Media career community, and definitely recognize some familiar faces. And it's really exciting to see you all here. And we're so lucky to have these amazing panelists and volunteers. Thank you so much for being here. And we're so lucky to have you, Leslie. I have a couple of
Happy to be here.
couple of quick announcements. One is just reminding you of the resources of the Career Center. Me and my colleagues are here. I know we've already met with a lot of you. We're available for one-on-one career advising appointments. You can book with us through Handshake. And we'd love to see you and walk you through some great conversations. We also have an arts, communications, and media group in the Herd. That is a wonderful networking platform. And if you're wondering what that is, I think, setting up an advising appointment with us would be a great place to start. But we plan to post job opportunities there and would love for you to meet us there. So Leslie is going to facilitate this panel for us. We're hoping to have a great conversation. We know we will. The panel, we think, will wrap up a little bit before 7, at which point we're going to take a bit of a stretch break. And when we all come back, you can expect to do a bit of Zoom networking. You'll come back and you'll see that all of our volunteers are in different breakout rooms. And you can, thank you, Susanna. You can move around. We're asking that folks spend about 10 minutes in each room and then move to a different room. And we'd really like to ask you to stick to that. We have a lot of people here tonight, which is exciting, but we want to make sure that people really get the chance to connect with folks. And so we really need people to keep moving. I have some really wonderful Career Center colleagues here with us tonight, Susanna, Kate, and Aline, and they're going to be helping me monitor the chat. So please feel free to put questions in the chat. And now I'm going to hand it over to Leslie Goldberg, who is the wonderful internship coordinator in the Film and Media Studies department. I know a lot of you know her. Please take it away, Leslie. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So yeah, I know many of you. Some of you I don't know. You may know my name. So as Katie said, I run anything media internship related. So whether you're an FMS student or not, if you're interested in anything related to media career-wise or internship-wise, I can, excuse me, help connect you to lots of different resources, whether it's alumni who are working in the field for informational interviews or internship opportunities. Many of you I know already get my my internship digest newsletter. So if you don't get that, you should definitely sign up on the FMS website for getting my newsletter, because that's a really great resource, and I can help you with lots of other ways to hunt for jobs in media and also internships in media. And I am also a very proud Tufts alum. Many of the people that I know are people that I went to school with. And I just love connecting current students with alumni. So enough about me. I'm going to just very briefly tell you who our panelists are. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to introduce themselves. So I'm not going to say much about them, but you can also access their bios online. And I think Susanna, if she has not yet done so, we'll put that in the chat for you. So first we have Eni Akintade from UTA, United Talent Agency, former student of mine. We have Sarah Dickoff, who works as Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Fable Vision. And she and I have worked very closely together over many years. I've sent her lots and lots of interns. Jennifer Everett, who is Director of Marketing Communications for the Fenn School, which is a private boys' school in Concord, Massachusetts. And Jennifer and I have worked together professionally, and I know she's going to be a fabulous resource for you. We also have Terrence Tran, also a former student of mine, who's VP and Group Director of Data and Analysis at Digitas New York. Terrence did lots of internships, also was a proud sponsor of the Winternship program, which is our January winter program. for media internships. So he's been a wonderful sponsor for that. Last but not least, we have Miriam Wasser, who's a senior reporter at WBUR on the climate environment team. And Miriam has been a family friend of mine for many, many years and is an extremely talented journalist. And I know she has a lot to offer you as well. So those are our panelists. And thank you, panelists, for being here. I'm just so thrilled to have you. So for the students, I'm gonna run through a series of questions. We'll see how the timing goes. I don't think we'll have time for a Q&A, but one thing that the panel can do is really help you figure out, you want to know more about that person, then make a note to visit them in their breakout room. I do know that unfortunately Miriam cannot stay for the networking component, but we do have another person from WBUR, Amy Sokolow, and I'm sure that Miriam would welcome opportunities to speak with you outside of this opportunity, so you can get a chance to talk to her. Okay, so first, for any panelist who wants to start, can you talk a little bit about your job, what you do, sort of what a typical day is like, that kind of thing, and whoever wants to start can start, and next person can jump in, and etc.
So who wants to go first? Me, because
Jen, I think you should go first.
Well, I'm coming off of an incredibly stressful day, so if I am not as eloquent as I might like to be, forgive me. So I am at the Fenn School. I have been there 6 years now. I actually have a son who just applied, so he may be entering in the 4th grade, which is an exciting transition point. So I spent most of my career in PR and marketing agencies in Boston, about 25 years. And so landing back at the Fenn School in a marketing and communications role was something that I would not necessarily have expected, but it is fulfilling every one of my needs and wishes right now. It is a wonderful community. I love being immersed in a school that I really believe in. I am from the very start drinking that Kool-Aid about the Fenn School and the mission and its values and everything it promises to do for boys grades 4 through 9. And so it has just reminded me of the importance of trying to find a job working for something that you do love and care about, because I think it just, it impacts how you do the work, how invested you are, and it's just miraculous every day to show up at a place where it's so wonderful to be, and to even on the most stressful of days, which like I said today was, I love everything that I have to do in a day. The challenge is there is so much to do in a day with a lean team too. So most of my career was in PR and marketing agencies supporting a lot of healthcare and food companies like General Mills, Ben & Jerry's, etc. But I am so happy to now be in education doing similar type of work, everything from strategy to managing social media, publications, all of the different communications to a range of constituencies that a school would support. So it's an action-packed job and very exciting, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys a lot more about it.
Great, thank you, Jen. Terrence, you want to go next?
Sure, yeah, and I will echo Jen. I have had a long 2 days, so I'm tired, and apologies if I'm not as eloquent as well. But yeah, where do I start? I graduated from Tufts in 2012, so it's been almost 11, I guess it has been 11 years. I majored in sociology, minored in communications and media studies, which I guess was the precursor to film and media studies at Tufts. Yep. And then after I graduated, I started at Digitas. It's an advertising marketing agency, headquartered in Boston, but they have offices all over the country and the world, actually. I've been at Digitas for a total of 8 years. They were not consecutive, so I bounced around a few times, but I keep coming back. This is my 3rd tour at Digitas, and honestly, I don't know why I'm back, but we can get into that later. But Yeah, no, it's great. So I work in the data and analysis department. All that means is when we run advertising, so any promoted post that you might see in social media, when you're on a website and you see those banner ads or any paid search ads, my team is responsible for analyzing how those ads perform so that we can help our clients, so the advertisers, figure out where to spend their money the most efficiently, right? So what's effective, what's ineffective, and then how do we lean more towards the effective advertising. It's a, I know it's a controversial kind of role, but I think it is interesting in the lens of advertising, right? Because you're always trying to stay ahead of the cultural trends and how do you stay relevant and all of that. And that's what keeps this role interesting. And that's probably why I keep coming back to the advertising world. I'll end with this. About 5 years ago, so 2018, I was like, I'm done with advertising. I want to get out of it. So I switched into tech. I was working at Salesforce for about 3 years, and it was like the perfect gig for the pandemic. Really emphasized that work-life balance. Learned a lot about organizationally, how do you run an organization like Salesforce that's like thousands and thousands of people around the world. And after a while, I realized, you know what, it's this is the kind of job I want when I'm 40 and, when I'm ready to slow down a bit. So that I think that's part of the appeal of why I wanted to come back to advertising, because it's so fast paced. There's always new things to learn. There's always emerging platforms and media channels that we can explore. So my team is very heavily integrated with like the strategy team, creative teams, account, project management, and we kind of work that whole funnel to, in support of our clients. So I think that dynamism is what keeps me coming back to that. That is me in a nutshell.
Great, thank you. Miriam, can you go next for us?
Hi, I'm Miriam. I'm a climate and environment reporter at WBUR, which is the local NPR station here. I have been in this job for about 4 years and have been at BUR for about 5. And before that, I was a staff writer at a paper in Phoenix, Arizona. I did not necessarily intend to become a journalist when I graduated from college, but sort of found my way there and realized like what a privilege to get to spend every day asking questions and calling up really smart people, and they're willing to talk to me. So that's what I do. This is my first job in radio journalism. So that was a big shift for me. My background is more long form journalism and magazine style writing, but radio has proven to be a really interesting medium, and you can tell stories in really different ways. And a lot of people listen to the radio, and it's where a lot of people get their news. And so I feel I have a big responsibility to tell important stories and also help people understand what's going on around them. So I primarily cover Massachusetts areas, although sometimes we work pretty closely with our collaborative partners in New Hampshire, Maine, so New England, we all kind of work together. And I have, my focus recently has been on energy issues, and within that also environmental justice issues. So I spend a lot of my time just talking to people and trying to understand power and how it all works and how our lights turn on and what we're going to do about climate change. So excited to be here tonight and hear all of your questions.
Thanks. And I know we have a lot of students interested in climate change in media. So that'll be great. Annie, nice to see you. You're up next.
Hi, I don't know how today of all days the Zoom on my laptop video would not work, but of course it picked today, so apologies, I'm on my cell. But Leslie, it's good to see you. And good to see everyone. My name's Annie. I graduated in 2016, which feels like yesterday, but also a lifetime ago. I'm a film agent at United Talent Agency in Los Angeles. And I had no clue what I wanted to do post-college. I thought I was going to go to law school, but actually through the internship program, I spent a week my senior year of college in the frigid Massachusetts winter and decided to spend a week where I currently work in Beverly Hills at UTA. And honestly, it just felt kind of kismet. But basically, the job is I represent filmmakers, I represent writers, I represent some producers and a couple of actors in the hopes of finding them jobs, more or less, and putting films together. And it's a range of kind of clients that I work with. But I guess in a nutshell, that's the job of an agent. And there are many different types of agents, but that's kind of my specialty, film, and specifically writers and directors for film.
Great, thank you. It's exciting to see how far you've come, Annie. And Sarah next, or last but not least.
Thanks. It's good to see you all. Thanks for having me. My name is Sarah Ditkoff. I'm the VP of Strategic Partnerships at Fable Vision. I've been at Fable Vision for about 10 years. And Fable Vision, if you're not familiar, is a Boston-based media production studio. We've been in business for about 25 years. And we create educational media across all platforms. We make everything from animated series to apps, to games, to websites, to our AR or VR experiences. And we function like an agency. So folks hire us to make cool stuff for them. So we've worked with folks like Sesame and PBS and Smithsonian. What it means to work at a services business like Fable Vision is that our business is really critical in the form of pitching to win projects. So to do that, in my current position, I run point on a lot of our new business and proposal conversations, and I manage our entire proposal pipeline. So what that means in practice is that I'm one of the first faces that people meet when they're interested in hiring Fable Vision to make something for them. So I help people understand what they can make and how Fable Vision can help them make it. So I spend a lot of time in meetings, talking to people. I also do a lot of listening, trying to understand what their pain points are, what their hopes are, what their budget would allow, what their timeline would allow, and then work with our team to craft a media solution for them in whatever shape they want. I had a bit of an unconventional path to Fable Vision. I got my Bachelor's of Fine Arts in creative writing and poetry at SUNY Purchase in New York. And while I was there, I was the editor-in-chief of the on-campus arts and literary magazine. I managed a staff of 30 people. We had an operating budget that I managed. And what I realized in doing that work is that I really love working with creative people and giving them a platform to share their work. Graduated, went and got my master's in publishing because I really loved doing that publishing work. I did some freelance work for a couple of years trying to find a full-time job, yada, yada, yada. Through networking, I was connected to one of Fable Vision's co-founders, New York Times author and illustrator Peter H. Reynolds, and he had founded Fable Vision as an educational media studio that uses narrative and storytelling, which I really connected with, to help teach folks. And so 10 years later, that's really what I've fallen in love with. I would have never expected myself to work in media. You know, I'm a writer and trained in editing. That's what my education is in, but there's something really compelling about storytelling and using educational media as a way to deliver content to students that I just love. That's me.
Thank you. And Sarah, what a beautiful segue to my next sort of bunch of questions. I know you all have, my panelists have the questions. I'm gonna combine a few things just in the interest of time. So one of the things I hear from students a lot is, what are the first kinds of jobs out there in the industry, and where are the media jobs? And I say, often say the media jobs are everywhere. They're not only at the traditional media outlets such as an ad agency or a radio station or a film company. So I think, I know everybody can speak to this, but I think Jen, maybe because you're working at a boys' school that's not a media company, maybe you could take that question first, and obviously everybody's welcome to jump in. But I think the idea of doing media outside of a traditional media organization is something that students are often not familiar with. So if you could tackle that one? And then Sarah, I think you could probably talk about that a little bit as well.
Sure. So, I think you hit it right, that there are jobs that would be considered media or communications everywhere. And so that's why when I was saying at the beginning, really try to understand what type of environment you would want to work in, and storytelling about what really moves you and would inspire you. And I think what we've all each said is that there is some passion of ours in all the places that we've landed, right? So I think, as you're sitting down and figuring out, where do I go from here? I'm a good writer. I think I want to do this, but where do I point myself? I mean, I do think it's important to have that conversation with yourself to say, what type of environment would be most moving to me? And one thing I didn't mention in my bio was I had started an education after I graduated. I graduated from Brown. I am not a jumbo. I apologize. But I was,
not everyone on this panel is a jumbo, so that's fine. We let other people.
Yeah. So I graduated with a liberal arts degree, American Civilization, and I thought, where on earth do I go from here? But education was calling me, because I think it's really, critical, that foundation that we're giving our students, and that it's mission-based and all of that. That it's interesting that I'm finding myself landing back in that industry again, because it moves me, and it's something that, and like you were saying, Terrence, it's where I wanted to land when I was in my 40s, right? It's where I thought I was going to slow down, and that, this type of community was more predictable, more so than agency life. But in fact, it's incredibly busy and challenging. But every day I'm moved by what we're able to do for our students. So I think, just figuring out where you might direct yourself based on your passions, because there are media jobs there. And I think the tools that we're all building and that we've all built, strong writers, storytellers, being able to cut through the clutter, whether it's social media or long form writing, we have that skill, and that skill is incredibly valuable everywhere. And not everybody has it. The smartest people out there cannot tell a good story, cannot cut through the clutter. And all of us folks on this call likely have that talent. And it's incredibly valuable. And I meet folks all the time, interviewees, and I'm astounded at how folks can't even tell a story on resumes often. So there's such value in what we are all skilled in doing. It's just finding where you want to apply that skill. And I know I talked too long, so I'll kick it back to you, Leslie.
You're fine. Other people, I think the storytelling piece is really important. And we have lots of storytellers on this panel. So anybody else want to jump in on that?
In terms of, what we do at Fablevision, we really like to see well-rounded candidates, because we do so many different things. We're not just an animation studio. We're not just a game studio. So we'd like to see folks, especially at the entry level, who are generalists and are open to trying a lot of different things and then learning on the job what they want to specialize in, and who are looking for a professional home, especially for that early part of their career, where they're open to mentorship and just trying different things just to see what that feels like. And it's great if they've already started that process during internships. But especially for your first job, I don't know, be open to trying new things. There are a lot of different career opportunities in terms of the types of jobs there are. There's user experience design, there's interface design, there's game design, there's art and animation, there's writing in so many different capacities. There's script writing, there's technical writing, there's programming. If you want to write code, that can be a media job. There's the business side of things, there's marketing and PR. I mean, there's really every type of job available in media. I think I agree what was just said about thinking about the type of environment that you want to do that work in is equally as important as thinking about what type of job you want to do in terms of your day-to-day.
I would add to really quickly, if it's okay, Leslie.
Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Even within a traditional media organization, right? I work for the radio station, you don't get much more traditional than that. There are a lot of jobs that are not mine too, right? So I'm the person, I write stories, I'm on the radio, like I do what you think of as a reporter, but there are producers, there are people who, you know, book guests and do the pre-interviews for all of the shows. There are people who are digital only editors, people who are radio only editors. There are people, not necessarily at our organization, but at other places, who do exclusively graphic design and who do visual storytelling, photojournalists. Like there's a lot even within just a traditional media outlet as well.
Thank you. That was really helpful. And both Sarah and Miriam had two big buzzwords in there that were going to lead me right to my question to Annie. So one was the idea of internship. So Annie, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, because you mentioned that in your introduction. I also know that you have to leave early, so I want to give you a good chance to talk. You know, Miriam, the idea of different jobs in a traditional media outlet. And as an agent, I imagine you know a lot about those different jobs. So you want to talk about internships first?
Yeah.
Like, how important are they and why students should do them, and
Yeah.
how do they get experience and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I would not be where I am right now if it hadn't been because of the internship and the internship program at Tufts in particular. So not knowing what I wanted to do, but knowing I was interested in the world of film, I think from sophomore year on, I made sure to apply to as many internships as I could. And I found that process to be challenging. I'm not going to lie. I'm sure it's changed now. But it's frustrating sending out your resume to a number of different places without having a real sense of what your internship would look like, and then maybe hearing back. But that's when I realized that I needed to use the resources internally at Tufts to be better at it. And I interned at a reality TV company. I interned at a video company. And then lastly, I interned at United Talent Agency. And I think that was the one to me that felt like, oh, this feels unexpected because I don't really know what this job is, but it feels like it's a lot of different things coming together. It's kind of behind the scenes of Hollywood in a lot of ways. Like, agents are behind the deals that are made, the films that come together, TV shows. The hands are everywhere, and I liked that so much. But again, I don't think I would have been able to kind of counteract my opinion about where I work currently if I hadn't had that past experience. So I would utilize the FMS program and the internship program and really just put your hat out there to the best of your ability.
Great, thank you. And can you speak a little bit about the jobs that are out there in film? Is that, I imagine that's something you know a lot about.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird. And LA is such a specific, and New York to an extent, it's such a specific environment. And ultimately, I think agencies kind of operate, I don't know how many people watch, you know what, I won't actually lead with that. I was going to say something that hopefully no one has watched the show. But all this to say, I think agencies have the reputation of being a place where a lot of people start their film and TV careers. A lot of people enter into what is called a mailroom, and it honestly feels like freshman year 2.0. It's usually a lot of recent college grads who literally start in a mailroom, and the job is to do a lot of odd tasks for agents, and it's a bonding experience. But many people use their year at an agency to then go pivot into what they want to do. And very few people from your mailroom class who ultimately become really core to your existence and your success in a lot of ways very few end up becoming agents like myself. But all of this to say, I've spoken to a number of different people who are leaving college, and my number one piece of advice is, if you want to work in film, if you want to work in TV, you're moving to LA, you're moving to New York, you should apply to work at an agency because the resources are insane. A lot of the better jobs working for bigger production companies or directors or actors, or you want to get staffed in a room, whatever it may be, they require some kind of agency training because it's just access to all of the information you didn't think you needed. But that's really, really helpful going forward. So.
That's great. That's really great advice. Thank you. I'm going to direct this question to Terrence. Talking now about, how do you get the first job? So Annie talked about it from the film TV side. Can you say a little bit about first jobs in your industry, and then in general, where do students start? I mean, I got a lot of graduating seniors pounding on my virtual door right now.
Right. That's an excellent question. I mean, obviously, I think I'll echo what Annie said about the internship program, because I think without that, I would not have been introduced to the marketing world at all, the advertising world at all, and I probably would not be sitting here today. So I would definitely suggest utilizing any resources available to you now on campus, whether it is the internship program or career services and whatnot. But also just like talk to your professors and see if there are any alumni that are working in the industry that you can make a connection with, because ultimately it's us in the industry who know about the jobs and who can share information about that, right? Specifically with ad agencies, I mean, for Digitas, and I imagine for a lot of other ad agencies or big ad agencies out there, there is a campus recruiting program, right? Where they specifically go out to college campuses to recruit either interns for folks who are junior year or rising seniors, or full-time positions, entry-level positions for graduating seniors. And I would certainly urge all of you to, if you're interested in advertising, to look at these company websites or even their socials and figure out when they drop the applications for that, for campus recruiting, and then just like put your resume in, right? But again, I think being able to network and connect with someone who's working there already is going to be, it's going to give you a leg up, I suppose, when it comes to actually getting an interview and whatnot.
Great, thank you. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, candidly speaking, I was awful at networking, and I was awful about using the Career Center and any of those resources when I was at Tufts. So I procrastinated like I always did. And senior year, I was looking around and all my friends were getting job offers, and I was like, what am I gonna do, right? And but like, I think me being put in touch, especially with the internship program, building a network there of like Tufts alumni who were working at Digitas, kind of gave me a fallback, if you will. And I reached out and I was like, hey, like, what's up? I need a job. And, the rest is history. But I don't suggest you take that path. I'm saying if that is the path you're currently on, rest assured you will find something if you put your heart to it.
I'm sure that was very reassuring to a lot of our students. Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to jump in there on the, on the job hunting front, or maybe even the informational interview front? I know Annie, I had asked you to comment on that question, and I'm just trying to be respectful of your time because I know you do need to go fairly soon. So, did you want to jump in on that question?
Like taking advantage of, and like, what is the question exactly?
I'm sorry. So yeah, so how not just taking advantage of informational interviews, but how to make the most of them, how to get them, kinds of things to ask. Like, what do you do with an informational interview?
I think what Terrence said was accurate, that the networking is challenging. I would say I have never said no to a jumbo who's reached out just to chat. And I think because, and I know there are non-jumbos on this call too, but all of this to say, I think that is probably where I would start. I think I would, if you want to move to LA and you're on the Zoom and you have interest in film or TV, please reach out to me. I've had a number of 15-minute, 30-minute chats over Zoom with people, and I'll be as blunt as you want because I don't have a filter. So I'll give you the truth. But I think that's always really, really helpful, to just reach out to the community of people who will give you the real. Because I think the informational sessions with people who aren't connected to you somehow can be helpful, but I think ultimately you want to kind of make a personal connection with someone. So for me, because I went to Tufts, because I was in this situation not that long ago, I am inclined to help whoever I can. And there's so many Tufts alums at UT in particular now. So I don't know if I'm really answering in a revolutionary way, but I would utilize Tufts grads.
Yeah, and the one part you didn't say was that you can't say no to me. So,
and I can't say no to Leslie
because I send them to you and you're like, oh, another one Leslie sent me. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Was there something else? Any? Oh, okay. Excuse me. Sorry. Miriam, did you have any thoughts on anything related to that, or Sarah or Jen, related to sort of networking and reaching out to people in your industry?
Yeah, I mean, it never hurts to ask is kind of the spirit of networking or an informational interview. Like a cold email or a note on LinkedIn is totally fine. Like the bar is really low, I feel like, for that first note. Give me like 3 sentences about yourself, take the liberty of attaching your resume, and ask for 15 minutes of my time. Like, make it really easy for me to say yes. Like, I don't want to have to do too much work before we get on the phone, because I want to spend the bulk of our time on the phone learning about each other. And then once we get on the phone, do your research, come prepared, think about your questions ahead of time, ask people about their paths, ask how they got their job, ask like, what do you wish you had known when you were starting out too? Those are all good questions to ask. Like, I think they've become cliches because they're so effective in some sense. Like, it's okay to ask those types of questions. And then ask, is it okay if I keep in touch? Is it okay if I follow up? Is there anyone else at your company you think might be good for me to meet with? Like, it doesn't hurt to ask. It's okay. The worst thing they're going to say is, nothing comes to mind right now, but let me think about it. It's fine.
I would just really underscore what Sarah said about coming prepared, even to an informal interview. I mean, I'm not the gatekeeper to a job at WBUR by any means, but I've definitely fielded calls from people where they've asked to chat for 15, 20 minutes. I say, of course, and they don't have any questions for me, and sort of like, what am I doing here then, right? And you want to put your best self forward, and presumably you're reaching out to someone like us because you really do have questions and you really do want to do this. So research the person that you're talking to as well. The more that you can come prepared, the better you're going to come across. And it's good practice too, I think, just for any interview you do in general. Think through what some obvious questions people might ask you, have questions ready, and try to research the person you're talking with, if you can, or the organization. If you're interviewing for a job at a newspaper, read the newspaper. There are little things that you might like laugh at, but you'd be shocked at how many people don't do that. And you really do yourself an advantage by doing what is probably the bare minimum in some ways.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I'm astounded by how many people show up and say, well, I'm looking for a job in advertising or PR or marketing. And I'm like, well, what is it? What are you after? And it is amazing, those folks that do their homework. They, for example, at the Fenn School, that they have spent time on the website, have watched our social media, have some point of view about what we're putting out there in the world. I mean, those folks are a dime a dozen sometimes. So doing your homework will set you down the road much further than many other people who are vying for the same job. One additional thing I wanted to say about interning, my career is because of taking a unpaid internship and commuting an hour to it and living off my parents because that was what you had to do. One other thing that I found was useful too is seeing if there is some free or lower paid service that you can provide. For example, I offered myself up for freelance writing projects or anything, any little nugget of work that allowed me to get inside and more deeply connected and show these folks that I had a talent that could be beneficial to them. So, you know, it's very difficult in this day and age to take on all this free work and these, you know, lower paid assignments, but I know that it's largely why I'm where I am in my career, because I did just kind of suck it up and do those things and figure it out to show folks what I could do and increase my chances they would want to bring me in some more significant capacity.
Yeah, I completely agree with that too. Like now more than ever, we have access to social media and it's more native to especially your generation of folks, right? I've worked with an intern before who prior to interning at Digitas, I guess while she was in college, was like, I post on social all the time. So I just went to small businesses on Main Street being like, yo, you need to up your social game. Let me help you with that. And that's what she put on her resume. And frankly, like it gave her so much hands-on experience that it was like a no-brainer to hire her, because it was like, great, I don't even have to train you. You already know what to look for. You already know the best practices. So you know, and I mean, again, I keep coming back to social media as like an example, but I think the same can be true about like video production, putting your stuff on YouTube, whatever it may be. But like, think about the mom and pop shops that exist in your community, and even if it's website development, they need a lot of TLC. And you know, I'm sure amongst us there are folks who are talented enough to do that, and you might as well flex your muscles now, build your resume, and you have that experience to show your future employers.
Great. And you said the keyword right there. I didn't ask you guys to do this, but we're going to do a super quick lightning round on resumes. And I'm going to start with Terrence. We're just going to go around. One thing a student should keep in mind about their resume. One thing. What's important on a resume?
Oh, gosh. I mean, so the answer depends depending on what point of your career you're in, right? I would say early in your career, I think demonstrating results is very key. I know it's hard because not a lot of folks have experience, but anything you can say that says, this is what I did and this is what came from it, or this is what the outcomes were, makes that bullet point on your resume so much more tangible that, you know, I'm like, okay, I get it. You can, you know, do this. And then this is what I would get if you were, this is what I could see you producing when you're working with me, right? So yeah, just be pointed and so have it be action and results oriented. Yeah.
Results. Any important thing on a resume?
Yeah, hopefully this is obvious and maybe this is a silly answer, but if you have an email address that is something unprofessional, pigglywiggly5.com at yahoo.com, whatever, get a new email address. I've seen a lot of them. Never works out. So hopefully that's obvious to everyone here.
I think that's a great answer. Jen, one thing on a resume.
So I think, you know, thinking about what, you know, blanket statement you want to make about yourself at the top, you know, like your header statement, and you know, have it, you know, it's hard as a new person just looking for a job to have it be too specific, but at least think about who is receiving this resume and having that appropriately targeted or at least relevant, you know, to the organization you are sending it to, because the minute I see a wildly general statement at the top, I say this person doesn't know what they're going after. This is going to be insanity here and it might be a waste of our time. And so just be thoughtful about that, what you lead with at the top.
So like everything in media, know your audience. Sarah, resumes.
Going off of what Annie said, if you are a recent graduate, make yourself an email that is not your school email. I've worked with a bunch of folks during the hiring process, and you never know, I don't know what Tufts policy is, but you never know how long the school is going to keep your email address active. And it's also just nice as a young professional that you are kind of like coming out, you're putting your own stake in the ground as your own young professional. So I would encourage you to do that. I do have another thing that is not resume related, but just give your name a quick Google and see what comes up, because that's one of the first things that people are going to do before they interview you too. So just see what comes
Good.
up.
Great. Miriam.
I guess resume specific proofread and have like 5, 7 other people proofread too. I think in the world of journalism specifically, your clips and your cover letter probably matter a little bit more, but I'd like what someone, I forget who it was, who said earlier, like your resume, you're telling a story about yourself. So you don't have to put every single thing you've ever done on there. Like, I'll be honest, like people probably don't care what you volunteered for in high school anymore, right? Like think about the adult version of yourself that you're trying to put forward and include relevant things. Now, if it's something like that makes you a really cool, well-rounded person, that can be on there too. But you're trying to curate the best version of yourself.
Great, thank you. Okay, so another thing, and we're kind of getting to the end here. One of the things that our students ask me a lot is about a liberal arts education. Oh, I can't compete with the so-and-sos coming out of film school, or everybody else knows more about advertising because they went to a college of communication and I didn't. So can you just talk, and whoever wants to take this on first is fine with me. If you just want to talk a little bit about why you think a liberal arts education is important, and how do students best parlay the skills they learn as liberal arts students into media careers?
I can take that first if you want.
Thanks. Yeah, great, sure.
So I did not go to Tufts, but I also went to a small liberal arts college on the East Coast. And I think what you learn at a school like that is you learn how to think and you learn how to write. And whether you major in American studies or visual arts or international relations, all of these schools have you do a certain set of core things, right? You're learning to write, you're learning to think, you're learning to grapple with complicated ideas and synthesize ideas and come up with your own ideas. And it doesn't necessarily matter what your training is, because a lot of that stuff you can learn on the job that you're doing. What matters is, can you think, can you research, can you write well? And I think that that's where a liberal arts degree, that's where you excel coming out of a liberal arts degree. And if in the future, like you need more specific training, you can always go to grad school. I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, that's what I did, and that's what you did, Miriam. Others' thoughts on liberal arts, value of a liberal arts education? I know you all have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Miriam there. Like, it's about how you learn, how you think, not so much what you know, right? And that's what liberal arts gives you. I had this conversation with an old colleague of mine recently exactly about that. She's a mother and her twins are now graduating high school and looking for colleges and based in New York City. And I think folks in like the local New Yorkers tend to go to school and go down one track. It's either nursing or teaching or business or something. And it's very like one track minded. And I think her daughter was thinking about going to Tufts and she was like, why would you go to liberal arts school? And I was like, well, let me tell you, right? It gives you that well-roundedness. It gives you the ability to think outside the box, right? And it makes you nimble, I think, in the workforce, right? So exactly what Miriam said, if there's a skill set that you don't know, you're going to be open to learning it and you're going to be able to pick it up better than someone who's been down one track and was like, oh, wait, I need to reverse and go down this other track, right? So I think there's a lot of power to liberal arts education. I think you just need to be a little more diligent and purposeful in terms of how you apply it in the real world.
Jen, I see you nodding. You have thoughts on that?
No, I'm a big nodder on Zooms. No, I think I agree wholeheartedly with both, is that a liberal arts education develops some very critical skills that not everyone has in their quiver, as they're going into the work world. And I love what you said, Terrence, about the ability to be nimble. And I do believe that you can learn any industry that you might choose to land in when you get there. But being a strong writer and a strategic thinker, that is so important. And each and every day I'm interviewing people who it's clear they have had the tunnel vision, and I'm just not quite sure they can be nimble in that way. And I can tell you this, I mean, working at a school over the course of a day, I mean, I'm probably pivoting about 25 different times on all different things. And I remember when I worked in agency life, I would get so frustrated with my clients if we didn't hear back from them about something, if we sent in a proposal and we said, what's taking them so long? Now that I'm on kind of the client side, I fully understand why they can't be as responsive as we would like. And that's, kind of my pitch for being, inside an industry or an organization is you get exposed to so much. In the course of a day, over the course of my 6 years, I mean, so much I'm touching, and it's building my skill sets, even as I sit here, as probably one of the older people on the call. It's incredibly fascinating and fast paced, even though you might not think a school would be.
Thank you. And we are getting to the end. I know we promised you promised everybody a short stretch before we do our breakout rooms, but I wanted to give our fabulous panelists a chance to think about, offer one bit of advice. I mean, you've already given great advice, but if you had one piece of advice, one thing that you know now that you didn't know when you were just starting out in your career, what would it be? Sarah, you want to start with that one?
Sure. I would just say, leave yourself open to the opportunity to be surprised. Like, just try a bunch of things, because you never know. And it's equally valuable to know what you don't like to do as it is to know what you do like to do. Just leave yourself, just try all the things.
Great. Terrence.
Sarah just took mine, but believe in yourself. That's cheesy as hell, but truly, the confidence really shows. It you might not be a confident person, but fake it till you become that, right? I think when you come across recent grads who are very who believe in themselves, who know their skills, who knows not only what they know but what they don't know, it just makes that working relationship so much easier, and it's everyone's just honest. So believe in yourself.
Wonderful. Miriam?
I'm trying to think, because I feel like this is a weird thing to say, but also, try lots of different things, but also value yourself, and you don't have to work for free, and you shouldn't let anyone exploit you. I think a lot of, at least one of my first real journalism jobs was a sweatshop, I think, in a lot of ways. We had quotas for what we had to do, and did I learn a ton? Absolutely. Was I miserable the whole time? Yeah. And that you don't have to do that. And so I understand a lot of times you end up taking a job that isn't necessarily what you want because you need to make money somehow, but I don't know, just value yourself and value what you're worth and what you can provide, and don't work for free, and don't let people take advantage of you.
I think that's great advice. And last but not least, Jen.
Yeah, I think I would agree with everything that's been said, but I think, really sit down and think about, what are the wonderful things that make me me, and that would make an employer happy to have me as part of the staff. What is unique about me? What have I learned at Tufts? What skills, are going to make me pretty indispensable to my future job? So I think, like Terrence was saying too, believe in yourself, because at the end of the day, you're all going to be okay. You all will land in jobs that some maybe you don't like, but most you'll love. And it is so interesting, the twists and turns that a career can take, that I think just embracing opportunities, trying things out, it's really a combination of everything we said. will land you in some really wonderful places and likely in careers that you're going to enjoy for a long time. That will also shift and change over years too, but it'll be a great time. But really, spend some time with yourself to figure out really what makes you tick. What are your strongest selling points? And think about how you tell the story of you that will set you apart from everybody else.
Great. Well, thank you. You have all been fabulous. I had mentioned that Annie had to leave early, but if you saw in the chat, she had a great time being here. And as she said, you can certainly reach out to her. Hopefully everybody can hear on our muted cells the wonderful round of applause. You guys were amazing. Miriam cannot be on the networking portion, but as she said, welcomes your outreach. We're going to take a couple-minute break. I'm going to let my colleague Kate or Katie, maybe Katie, jump in and tell you a little bit more about what's going to happen next. Thank you so much to our panelists. Really loved having you. Great to see all your faces. I love seeing former students and colleagues on these events because you guys just give back so wonderfully. So thank you. And we'll see you in the breakout room.